Good evening, my friends. Tonight on Jackson Snyder Presents, we have a guest who will be known only as Tammy, who's had some very unusual experiences in her life and just has never been able to tell anyone about them. I asked her if she could tell her story to myself and to a group of ministers whom I trust, lay ministers, giving her the opportunity to tell someone who was safe and also them the opportunity to try to draw some conclusions from her stories. To fit this session into the 50 minutes that I have, I truncated the silences and sped the recording up by 10%, again for the sake of time. Thank you for being here. We'll have Tammy back for a second session very soon. And thank you, Tammy, for trusting us and the people who listen to Jackson Snyder Presents with your stories. Through this experience, may Yahweh ameliorate your life and heal your memories.
You are about to experience Jackson Snyder Presents, direct from the Vero Essene Yahad, a Hebrew Nation radio original program. JSP is a variety show seeking out Jewish and Christian origins, religion, theology, and history, and doing so in a fashion that is both educational and entertaining. Welcome to Jackson Snyder Presents.
Let's see, 7 ministers on here.
Okay.
All very spiritual, righteous people. And
Okay.
I was surprised so many showed up. And there may be some more on here. So what I've asked them to do is to listen to your stories as though you had come to them as a minister to help explain this or to get some relief.
Okay.
If you would, can you get chat there? Probably not. I'd just like you to start the beginning again like you did with me. Tell us a little about your childhood and then tell us this latest thing that's happened to you, okay?
Oh, okay.
Go for it.
Okay, so I've had several instances happen to me, like I said, and my background is I went through severe abuse and neglect through my whole entire childhood until I was 16 years old, and then basically I ran away. Can you hear me? Okay.
A little bit. Good enough.
Okay.
Could you clarify?
Sorry, say that again.
Could you clarify what type of abuse?
Yeah.
Every abuse that you could possibly go through, if that gives you an example, every abuse that you can go through, I went through, and I went through it for 14 years of my life. Well, I mean, I don't know what was happening to me before the age of 4, so I can't say 13 years, but some of the abuse stopped when I was 13 because the person that was abusing me had moved out. But that abuse started when I was, as far back as I can remember, I was around 3 or 4 years old when that abuse started. But the other abuse came from my mother and my stepfather. My stepfather was the one that was the main abuser. But when I say, like, when I tell people my story, I've tried to go to doctors, I've tried to go to psychologist type doctors, I tried to go see counselors, but when I start to tell them my story and I go into depth detail, I really believe that they don't believe me. They just don't believe that a child could have possibly went through what I went through. And so I just don't go and see people like that anymore. In fact, I'm not a doctor person anyways. I don't trust doctors. There's not very many people that I trust, period. And that's just me. I can't help that I don't trust people. All I can say is no grown-ups helped me, as a child. And many things happened to me through the experiences that I went through. One thing being, and the only reason why I even know the things that I know now is because I know it's because of the Father. The Father healed me in so many different areas of my life where I could now understand things. But when I came out of my home, I was definitely severely developmentally delayed, severely. And it took me a long time to realize that. And I think it was more of just raising my own children and watching my children grow. Like I grew up with my children because
How old are you now, Tammy? How old are you?
I'm 47 now.
Okay.
And I was 18 when I got pregnant my first time when I was 17. I had my first daughter when I was 18. And then I have 8 children total. I have 6 boys and 2 girls. And the first one being when I was 18 years old, three separate husbands. So I knew that I was developmentally delayed, or I didn't realize how messed up I was until my last child was born. And it was like I all of a sudden became a grown up. And it's hard for me to explain that, but I was a 2-year-old with my 2-year-old. I literally was a 2-year-old with my 2-year-old, a 3-year-old with my 3-year-old, a 10-year-old with my 10-year-old. I was not a grown person with my children. And my children were just so well advanced. Like, they were, to me, so well advanced. I thought I had the smartest kids in the whole entire world, but they were just normal kids. It was just that I was the one that was not advanced. And to give you a little bit more of an example, I definitely, it took me, I never felt like a grown up when I was a grown up. I always felt like I was still this little child. I worked 22 years in the restaurant business, and the entire time I was in my workplace, I felt like I was like this child. No matter how old I got, I was still this little kid doing this big people thing. And I got all these big people around me. And I couldn't wait to go home just to go play with my kids, to be normal. That was normal to me, to be a little kid rather than a grown up. Does that make sense or no?
Sure. Arrested development.
Right.
At
right.
least,
I was
one
not
thing about you admit it. People I know with that, they just will never admit it.
Well, it just happens to you when you go through the things that you go through, that I went through. There's no way you can be a grown up. There's no way that you would even know how to be a grown up. It doesn't matter what your age is. You can't be a grown up. You're so messed up inside. Your head is so messed up. Like, you're scared to death of everything. Like, I used to be scared to death of everything. I went in the restaurant business. I went through so much sexual harassment by other employees because I was so scared to tell them, don't touch me. Like, now, I don't work now. I can't work. I cannot go into a workplace ever again because I will voice my opinion. I will be very loud. I will look like a maniac if anybody ever touches me inappropriate ever again. like I can't work with others. So I don't work. I don't work, and I haven't worked in 7 years now. And I tried, but I know that I can't do it because I can't work with others. The spiritual realm is all around me. I sense the demonic. I sense the people around me, I can see everything going on around me. I can see all the evil going on around me, and I can't put myself in that position. I can't put myself there ever again. I can never go back out to this world, if that makes sense. I can never go back. I have left this world, and I live in a whole completely different world. And it's a world that is a spiritual realm with the Father, where I know that I'm safe and I feel safe. But that's all besides the point. I would take up this whole entire phone call, and we'd have to go for the next week if you wanted to hear like every detail of what I went through as a child, and you will be horrified with everything that I would have to tell you. So I wanted to go back to the spiritual experiences that I had in this, because one thing that I can say is I've always known the Father. I didn't need anybody to tell me. My parents were not church people. We did not go to church. I did start going to Sunday school on a church bus. It was a Baptist church around, I want to say around 7, 8, 9, 10, somewhere around there. It was only for a couple of years, but it was somewhere around that age group if we were allowed to go on the bus, on the church bus. It wasn't every single Sunday, but I never even went to the kids' church. I went straight to the adult church, and that's where I went because I thought that was really where the Father was at the adult church. So I would do adult service every single time the church brought me there. But I've always known the Father. I didn't need that church to tell me. I had known the Father for as long. I can't ever not remember knowing the Father. 4 or 5 years old, I knew the Father already. He was my safety. It was the only place that I could go where I knew that I could feel safe and I could talk to him, and it was just a safety place for me. But spiritual experiences, though, that I started having, the youngest that I can remember is when I was 5 years old. I began to have out-of-body experiences. And I know Jackson had said that, sometimes that can be associated with lucid dreaming, but I know what lucid dreaming is. I've lucid dreamed also. I've had many lucid dreams. But this was actually physically, I knew that it was going to happen. I could sense when I laid down in bed, I knew I didn't even want to go to bed that night because I could already feel the tingling in my body, and I can't explain it, but I felt this feeling in my body. And when it was bedtime, I was so scared that I had to go to bed because I knew that it was going to happen. I knew already that it was going to happen. And what would happen is, as soon as I would lay down, within a couple minutes or so, my body would literally leave my body. And the feeling, and it was so scary, the feeling of me exiting out of my body was a horrifying feeling. And then once I got out, I was okay.
Quick question.
Say something? Yes.
Yeah. How far did you go?
I would come all the way out of my body, and then I would be able to fly. And I could fly anywhere that I wanted to fly, but I generally would fly right there in my neighborhood where I lived at. I would fly over the power lines, over the trees, and I would just fly around. And the flying part was wonderful. I loved flying. That was not scary at all. I loved being able to fly. But then when my body had to come back to my body, I had to experience that same feeling again, of the feeling of your body going back into your body. And it was so scary. It was so scary that I never wanted it to happen again, but it would happen again. You know what I mean? It wasn't an every night thing. It was more of like maybe once or twice a week thing. And it happened for a good couple of years. It wasn't just something that happened once or twice. I would leave my body and I would be scared to death because I knew that I was going to leave my body that night because some kind of sensation came into me telling me I was going to leave my body. I don't know what it was. I was only 5 years old. You don't know what's happening to you at 5 years old. You're just not, you have no education of that, and I didn't realize what was happening to me or what it would be called, I guess, until later on in life. I realized I was having what people talk about as being out of body experiences, astral projection or something like that. So I just knew that my body was leaving my body, and it was definitely nothing like lucid dreaming. I've lucid dreamt many, many times, and I know what lucid dreaming is. So
just for your FYI, I had one in high school.
Where you left your body.
Oh yeah, I saw myself on the basketball court. I was on the basketball goal. I was up on the tree, and then I was headed to Mars. That's when I stopped. It got too weird.
So now you remember what it felt like when your body left your body, right?
Yeah, but mine wasn't. It was strange. That's all I can say. It felt strange.
Well, maybe it was because you were older that it wasn't so scary to you. But I mean, as a 5-year-old little girl, it was really, really scary to me. Like, I was devastated going to bed because it wasn't like I could go to my mom and my stepdad and be like, I'm scared. I don't want to go to bed. Can I sleep with you? It was nothing like that. I was going through severe abuse at that time. I could never go to them and tell them, I'm scared. I would be backhanded to the floor if I said I was scared to go to bed, So I had to face it. I had to go through it. It had to happen. There was nothing, at that point. And so that was my first experiences with, it was obviously a spiritual realm that I was going to. It was nighttime when I came out of my body, and it was nighttime still once I got out of my body. And so I was flying around at night, and it wasn't scary flying. It was just the whole part of exiting my body and then having to go back into my body. That part of the experience was very scary to me. But then somewhere around probably age, I want to say 7, 8, or 9, there was this actual being that began to visit me. And it was quite often. It was a solid at least 3-year period that this being came and visited me. And it didn't talk to me. I didn't talk to it. I was scared to death of it, and I would try to tell my family. He came back last night again. He came back, every time I'd say that. And my family just thought I was literally crazy, like schizophrenic crazy. But the thing is I know for sure that I wasn't crazy because we had a cat that was not a kid-friendly cat at all. But a couple, or maybe even more than a couple, but a few times the cat was an indoor-outdoor cat, so it wasn't always inside. But the few times that it did come and the cat was actually inside the house, the cat knew it was there and came and jumped up in the bed. And I'm telling you right now, that cat didn't go to any kid, definitely never slept in my bed. And for the cat to come up into the bed and be shaking also, I'd be shaking like crazy, thinking that this thing's going to kill me, basically. And now I do want to say that I didn't say this to Jackson, but earlier, but the house that we lived in, my parents later on, whether this is true or not, because I can't believe anything that comes out of their mouth, ever. But my parents had told me that the house that they bought, the reason why they bought that house is because some man committed suicide in it or whatever, and they got it for super cheap. So I don't know if it was the man or what coming every night, or it wasn't every night. It was like 2 or 3 nights a week for like, 3 years solid. This guy came and visited me, and I never looked at him. And every night I would say to myself, when he comes back again, I'm going to look. I'm just going to look. I'm going to look this time, and I'm going to see what it looks like, But every time it got to me, I would cover my head up because I would be just too scared. I couldn't look. I never looked. I never looked to see what it looked like. It never tried to do anything to hurt me, but it moved things around. Like it had heavy work boots on, like its boots were heavy work boots. So if you think about somebody walking through a house with heavy work boots, it's really loud. And I never could understand why nobody else in the house can hear this. Like, he's loud. He just went into the kitchen. He just moved silverware. And oh my gosh, he's come, I'm repeating, like every time he would come, I would start like picturing in my head what part of the hallway he's in before he gets to my room, so I would have this whole vision in my head. Say that again.
Continue.
Are you there? Okay. So I would have this whole vision of my head of what part of the house he was in right now, and I could hear him. He'd go all the way to the kitchen. He'd move. Like one time he opened up the silverware drawer and moved some silverware around. And I was so freaked out that he was grabbing a knife to come in and kill me. And that was one of the nights that the cat was in the bed with me. The cat ran and jumped up in the bed with me, and we're both shaking. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, he just got a knife and now he's going to kill me. And here comes his feet, his big boots coming back, and I'm like, okay, he's almost to my room. Oh my God, he's almost, this would be what would be going on in my head, basically, as he's walking through the house and coming to my room. He would always just come to my room and like stand there or something. I don't even know. I don't know why he never like came in and tried to touch me or anything like that. I don't know if it was a fear tactic of the enemy just trying to scare me. I don't know. I really just don't know. But that was my earliest of moments that I can remember, of that type of spirituality or spiritual things happening. Now, I've had multiple things happen in my adulthood that were spiritual situations, but the most recent one was, it was about 2.5, well, it'll be 3 years in September, because that's when it'll be 3 years that I broke my arm. So it'll be 3 years in September that this happened. And I was up in my RV, and I had he's 15, but he was 13 then, 13-year-old son, my 9-year-old son, and my 11-year-old son. Now, the 11-year-old son was up in the top bed with me. So picture an RV, how an RV has the top bunk bed, up front over the cab of the steering wheel and everything. There's a top bunk. Then we have a middle bed that's right below where it would be during the day, it's a dining room table set up, but you fold the cushions down and then it's a bed. So we have that bed there. And then we had the back bedroom. So my 9-year-old was in the back bedroom. My 13-year-old was in the middle bed, and my 11-year-old was up in the top bunk with me. So we're all sound asleep, and it's between 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning at this time. And I have 2 little ankle biter dogs, like yapper type barker dogs. And they never bark through the night. That's never an issue. They sleep through the night, and that's the way that it is. But that specific night, between 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, they started barking like crazy at the door. And it wasn't like they were barking aggressively to kill something outside the door. They were barking like their tails were wagging like the best thing in the whole entire world was right outside that door. And so we all sit up and we're all yelling at the dogs. My son all the way in the back bed, he's a heavy sleeper. He didn't wake up through it at all. It was just my 13-year-old and my 11-year-old and me that actually woke up. So we're yelling at the dogs, Dodo Bird, Zor, stop barking, and they're not responding at all. So I went to go climb off the top bunk, which is only about, I don't know, 3.5, 4, maybe 4 feet above, 4 feet from the floor. So it's 4 feet up in the air from the floor. It's not that big of a jump to even just jump off the bed onto the floor is what I'm saying. So I go to swing my legs over to put my feet on the step to come down. And as soon as I put my foot down to go step off, something pushed me off the bed, a force. It literally was a force. It pushed me off the bed. I flew off the bed like Superman and fell in a bottomless black pit. I was falling, and this pit was black, and this pit was bottomless. I was falling fast. Like, I can't even, it's hard for me to explain on the phone because I can show you the movements. My feet were like, my toes were pointed downwards, just trying to reach the bottom, and I'm pointing and I'm falling, and it was just this horrible, horrible place that I all of a sudden fell into. And I was falling so long that I said to myself, when am I going to hit the floor? It's only right there. And as soon as I said that, I came out of the black pit. I hit the floor and I broke my wrist. I broke my arm. I broke both bones in my arm. So I immediately grabbed my arm because I'm in horrible, horrible pain. And I'm yelling at not yelling at him, but, yelling, give me a flashlight, get me a flashlight. Because my dog still didn't stop. They were still barking, didn't even respond to me hitting the floor. And I'm screaming for a flashlight. So he hands me a light. I open the door and I run out, broke arm and all. And I just start shining the flashlight, and absolutely nothing was outside the door. There was nothing out there. I shined under the RV all the way around. I mean, if there was some kind of animal, eyes would have shined. I mean, there would have been something out there. So I came back into the RV. I'm holding my wrist, and I end up setting my own arm, my bones back in place, because if you've ever had a broke bone, when it's broke out of place, it actually hurts worse. So when you push it back into place, when you set your arm back into place, or any bone that's broke, it still hurts really bad, but it's a less hurt of a pain.
I can't imagine you doing that by yourself, really. That would be so utterly painful. I'm surprised that you could even get through that.
Well, if you want, if believe it or not, Jackson.
Oh, I believe it.
2 years before that, I fell off the top bunk. I hit a cooler, and this was a purpose falling. I went to go step off, and I ended up not putting my foot on the step, and I just slid off. And it wasn't that bad. The actual fall wasn't that bad, but because I ended up having a cooler down there, which is never there, it just happened to be there that night. My leg just underneath, probably about 4 inches under my shin, slammed into the crease of the cooler, and I broke my leg, and I set my leg back. It broke so bad that it actually broke out of the skin. I busted the bone out of the skin, and the first thing I did was set my leg back in place because I was in so much pain. It was so horrible. And the first thing I did was pop my bone back into place, and then cried because my leg was broke. But I never went to the hospital for that. I was out in Arizona at the time, and I was trying to get back here to my kids in North Carolina, and I wasn't going to let anything stop it. I knew it was the enemy trying to stop me at that time. He did not want me to get back to my kids because I had a message for them. I had a message from the Father to give my kids, and I was not going to let nothing stop me. But I came here. It took me 14 days to drive from Arizona here to North Carolina because my leg hurt so bad all day, every day. It was like my whole leg was swollen so big, and the ache of the pain was just day and night that I couldn't even drive. Like
so
it wasn't.
You say that somebody pushed you out of bed?
Not that time. I actually missed. I went to go step on the step, and I slipped off.
Well, the other time when you broke your arm, how did you get off the bed?
No, something pushed me. Like I literally felt, all I did was took my legs and put them over the side. I had not even started, I was still yelling at the dog. I had not even went to go step onto the step to get off yet.
You may contact us at Jackson Snyder Presents at this email address, veroyahad@gmail.com. That is VeroYahad@gmail.com. And let me remind you, you are listening to Jackson Snyder Presents with your host tonight, Bogdan G. Schruumkoff. Thank you for listening. We'll be right back. Jackson Snyder Present is back. Join us now for more of this interesting discussion.
As soon as I thought in my head that I was going to step on the step and get down now because the dogs aren't not barking anymore, I literally felt this force on that. I didn't feel a physical touch. I felt the whoosh feeling, if that makes sense.
So what was that pushed you? It was just you're a figment of your mind, or what did you decide it was?
Oh no, it was definitely a demon. It was definitely a demon, and it threw me right into that black pit. It threw me into a black pit. It pushed me off this demon that obviously my dogs must have been aware of, and that's why they were barking the way they were. It was definitely a demon that pushed me off the bed.
How long do you think you fell? You said you fell. There wasn't a black pit below you, but you felt like you were falling for quite some time?
Right. For like just think about being on sitting on a table think about standing on your dining room table and jumping off to go onto the floor. What is that? A half a second? Mm-hmm. I was falling for so long. It was many seconds. Many seconds went by, and I was falling so long that I said to myself, as I'm falling, when am I going to hit the floor? It's only right there. And as soon as I said that, bam, I hit the floor and broke my wrist.
Oh.
Like my body was in Superman mode. When I fell, so think about this. If somebody's jumping from, say, a table down to the floor there, your feet are going to be feet first, right? You're going to go down and your feet are going to be feet first. My legs were all the way out in front of me. My arm was behind me and hit the floor like, my legs are all the way out here, not straight down to go to the floor. They were way out in front of me, and my arm was back behind me to catch the fall before, I was on my butt, my arm, and my legs were out in front of me. It wasn't like, I was pushed. I know it sounds crazy. I know that it sounds crazy, but my boys were there. I mean, I got my 13-year-old is now 15, but he's here right now in the house with me. My 9-year-old here in the house with me. I would say
probably some of us here certainly have experienced the same thing, being pounded in the back or knocked down. In fact, I would almost say that it's fairly common for people, especially those that are righteous people, to be attacked in that way. I know I've been attacked that way.
Well, I know the devil hates me. He hates me. I know that he does. He knows that I have this relationship with the Father that I've always had that can never be taken away from me. It can never. I would never think any other way to think that, even in I went through a phase in my life between 18 and 21, I want to say, where I came into a rebellious type stage. Rebellious with the Father, I guess you could say, stage where I didn't not think that he was real, but I was questioning myself whether he was real or not. You know what I mean? Is this real? Is this real?
Sure.
And I ended up getting involved in some things, and I don't want to scare anybody or anything, but I ended up getting involved with a Ouija board, and because I wanted to know if evil was real. I wanted to know if it was real, because if the devil's real, then for sure, God's real, and I'm not crazy. I have not been talking to this person my whole entire life because I'm crazy. Well, you know what I mean?
If you try to check with the occult or the dead with the Ouija board, what you're doing is you're opening a big door, and they'll come right on in. So how'd you get over that?
Oh, I burned the board, and I have went through a huge cleansing of that. The Father knows that I knew that wasn't that was not a door that I needed to be opening, but I was so open to the spiritual realm that I was communicating with a dead person, and I got so attached to that dead person that when I burned the board, I actually cried like I just killed somebody. That's how involved I got with this dead person, because this dead person told me anything I wanted to know. You know what I mean? I
You call on them. They'll come. Call them in.
Yeah.
They will come, and they'll tell you all kinds of stuff, true or untrue.
Yep.
And then the hard part is trying to get rid of those things, even burning the board. I'm surprised it didn't start manifesting in the flesh to you after that.
Well, let me tell you what happened when I burned the board now. And I'm going to tell you this right now, even though I don't have the witnesses here, but my mom was there. At that time, he was 18 years old. My 18-year-old brother was there. My, at that time, best friend was there. And there was one more person. Who else was there?
These were all on the board with you?
Yeah, we were all using it together, my mom and everything. Man. My mom was so excited about using this board. But anyways, my mom's a witch, so it was very exciting to her to be using this board. Mm-hmm. And what ended up happening is I was 18 years old, and I had already had like I said, I had my first daughter at 18 years old. So I was probably 18 and a half at that time. My daughter was about 6 months old. And what ended up happening, it was me, my best friend that was 18 years old also, my mom, my brother, and I feel like there was somebody else there, but I don't remember who it was now at this time for some reason. Well, we were sitting in my mom's house at her dining room table doing the Ouija board, and my 18-year-old friend that was with me, she grew up Jehovah's Witness. So I don't know how her mom knew. I didn't know how me and my friend still to this day have no idea how her mom knew. But her mom has never come to my mom's house ever. And this woman all of a sudden came barreling through the front door and screaming, "Your baby's gonna die! This isn't," she freaked the living daylights out of me when that woman did that, because she'd never been in my house before. She's never even come to the door before. And here she is coming barreling through the door like she knew what we were doing. She knew that what me and her daughter were doing.
What was she saying? What was she saying when she came in?
She was screaming that we're going to die, that our babies, because my friend who was 18 years old, she had a baby too. So she started, because she knew we were out playing the Ouija board. I don't even know how. But
I imagine I could guess.
I know. Now, I don't know exactly how her experience was, but my experience was when she came barreling through that door screaming that our babies were going to die because of us playing with this Ouija board, I immediately grabbed the board, grabbed a can of gasoline, and we all went outside and put the board down on the ground, and I sprayed gasoline all over it. My brother lit the thing on fire. And when he lit the thing on fire, and I'm not kidding when I say this, a tornado, a literal tornado came up off the board, probably about, I don't know, maybe 12 inches, like a foot off the ground. And it went, and it spinned like on all the letters. It went, and then it disappeared in the middle of the board.
It spun away?
Just like that.
You're saying it spun away?
It disappeared in the board, like it went down into the board and was gone. So, and everybody that was there witnessed this. We're all standing there we're like, oh my gosh, what is that? It was just this tornado, picture a tornado. And it was just this tornado, and it zipped. It literally made this noise that was like, and it went just like that and disappeared.
Okay, Tammy, I want you to do something.
Yes.
I would like to discuss what you said with the other people in private. So I would like you to hang up, because I don't want them to hear. I don't want you to hear what we're talking about here. Okay. I'm making a recording, so you will hear, but right now I want them to give their honest opinions, because what I told them at first, listen to Tammy as though she's talking directly to you and you're her minister. And so I don't want their replies to be jinxed by the fact that you're listening. Do you understand?
Yes, I do. Okay. I understand.
And we'll get back together again, and we can do this again later on in the week and continue if you like. But right now, one of the things I need to do is to evaluate a little bit the people here and what they think of it, and we can learn something that way. So I'll get in touch with you a little later, okay?
Okay. All right, then. I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, it was good.
All right. Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
I want to hear what you have to say about this for the next 10, 15 minutes without her hearing. Because I'd like to know what your honest opinion is and where you think she is today.
Believe it or not, even though I wasn't abused as a child, I had a lot of similar experiences when I was growing up, and I was really spiritual, and they probably all thought I was crazy too, because there was some weird stuff going on when I was growing up in the house that we lived in.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I definitely think that she's telling the truth, but it's definitely demonic. And I don't know why she's dwelling on it now, because I rarely think about all those things. I think about the future and the present and worshiping the Lord. And I don't know what she's looking for. If she just wants to move on or what?
I'm not sure either. That's why I wanted to bring you together to listen to her. The biggest part of ministering to anybody, whether you're a professional minister or not, is listening and discerning. And that's what I'm interested in here and finding out from the people here. But Melissa, I think that you're a little more mentally together than Tammy. I think she has not only demonic problems, it seems like she solves those problems, but then she goes back to it again. You're not like that.
No, I never even talk about it or think about it because I'm ashamed and I'm embarrassed and I don't want to glorify Satan. And I try to just live this life now in the kingdom, and I don't go to the other side.
For sure.
I'm a little bit under the impression that she, in contrast, Melissa, that this is close to her time-wise. It's still happening to her. Whatever happened to you maybe, in years past, but I'm under the impression that she still is dealing with these things.
I think you're right. We listened to her for 45 minutes, but she's just getting on the tip of the iceberg.
I'm sure of that. The only thing that I have to say really is, once you say Ouija board to me, that just says everything, because it opens up portals and we battle demonically, and, it's a spiritual battle, and she has been such a victim in the physical realm, and it's just when you take it to a Ouija board and then it just moves on to the spiritual realm.
Would you give her that advice? I wanted to ask her, why in the world did you do that?
Because her mother was a witch.
She was young and didn't know better.
Yeah.
She said her mother was a witch.
Yes.
So, if your mother is a witch, there's just no way that you're not going to be influenced by that if you are in an active relationship.
True.
You're going to be influenced by it. And if the mother is all hot on getting in the Ouija board, you're just opening up portals. And I'm not surprised with the whole tornado thing. That doesn't surprise me at all. It is reaping the whirlwind, literally.
Mm-hmm. Yes. My Christian aunt gave her son and I one to play with. We didn't know what it was at about age 12. And yes, things manifested like right away.
My sister had a Ouija board, and, I grew up in a Baptist home. It wasn't, real strict within the household per se, but my sister had a Ouija board, and, my family is so dysfunctional, even the dysfunction doesn't function properly. And, I just always knew, always knew never, ever, ever to mess with anything like a Ouija board, or, I don't even remember if I ever had, like, girls will get together and have seances or things like that. I don't even remember doing that. I just had this something innate in me. This is something you have to stay away with. You just have to stay away from it completely. And, but my mother wasn't a witch.
Yeah, true.
That's really all I have to say.
I was wondering if she was talking about a formal witch or just she was witchy. I don't know. Obviously,
I took it to mean that she was a witch.
Okay.
She was practiced witchcraft is the way I interpreted that.
Okay.
But I don't know. Maybe she needs to clarify that.
Barbara, did you have something?
Oh, I was just thinking generational curse, stuff like that. I met and heard testimonies of other people that, that it was on the family line, and it just goes down, and some people love it and some people fear it. And, it was weird when she talked about tornado because, I won't go into that. But I felt that was very real when she was talking about it. I don't think she's making that up. That sounded like a very real experience because of things I've experienced before. I agree, though. It sounds like I didn't get a lot of her story. I came on late, but it sounds like from what you're saying, if she talked, that long, and this is still something, it sounds like maybe that was the beginning of her struggle and why she would bring that up.
Mm-hmm.
One thing you missed, Barbara, was she said that she was, from the time she was about 2 to 4 years old, that she was abused in a major way up until the time she was like 16. So, and she did say that she had always had a feeling that the father was always there with her, even though she wasn't overtly taught spirituality or church or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's something that's just come upon her. I would say that's probably what you miss, is that, according to her, it's been going on basically her whole entire life.
If she was that young in an abusive home, and she has that spirit that she grew up in with a witch mom, I could see it's a possibility that she's in one of those families that could be that she's developed, a multi-personality. One might be, totally connected to him and seek him that way. And the other one's, had to tolerate the other. And, because this is like those satanic families, they do to their kids. They shatter their mind and then work on the pieces the way they want them to be. And they've got, a personality from the abuse that they have to go somewhere else in their mind to tolerate it. And they develop actually other personalities that one can take this, the other one, can take that.
It's interesting you should say that, Barbara, because she said that she has 8 children, and and she said that she had her first child when she was 18, and she said that. And, I thought about dissociative personality disorder also when she said this part. She said that if she had a 2-year-old child, she was a 2-year-old. If she had a 4-year-old, whenever she interacted with that child, she was 4 years old. If she was a 10-year-old, she was 10 years old. And I thought immediately, that sounds like what used to be called multiple personality disorder.
Yes, I thought that too.
I really thought that.
Okay, Mark, you're next.
I was just going to make a comment that our memories are fractured. And that's a clear sign of some type of abuse.
When you say fractured, what did you...
They're not cohesive.
Oh, yeah, that's for sure. Good observation.
And so anytime you're talking to somebody who's gone through this abuse before, the memories are not quite 100%. And they'll remember parts and pieces here and there and so forth and so on.
And often mix them.
And from that fracturing of their memories, you can tell there's been some type of abuse because they've pigeonholed different things in different places.
Yeah.
If you follow what I'm saying.
Absolutely. You can just, it becomes obvious in her speech pattern. She'll be on one story, and then all of a sudden she'll be 10 years before that and jumping around. Okay, Mark, that's good.
So I think her whole thing is she doesn't know about spiritual authority and how to take a spiritual authority, and she needs to be taught and mentored in that direction.
Definitely.
Amen.
Okay, Craig, you're next.
I'm going to hit the road. I got to go.
Okay, brother. Nice to have you here tonight.
I would have liked to have apologized to her for, I think that the most earliest abuse that a lot of people suffer from is being left in a bed. I think she said that she was left in a crib, and that she can actually remember that, which is quite a traumatic event. I have 7 kids, and I wake up every morning and I have a bed full of babies because we don't, we allow them to come into our room until they're 5 or 6, and we try to really start to work with them on getting them to sleep in their room all night. But it can be very, very traumatic for a child to wake up from a bad dream or experience, and I could see that leaving scars on children that can be so difficult. And the last gentleman had said how the memories are a little jotted, and that's not so. I mean, it's true with people that have suffered from abuse, but it's also true with every one of us. An eyewitness account is the most unreliable form of witness there is. We don't actually have any memories. We only remember the last time we remembered an incident, and so therefore things can change drastically. It's too hard for me to say anything listening to what she said tonight, other than that first bit of certainly trauma being left, that she can actually remember being younger than 5, left in her room crying, while there's no telling what her parents were doing. I had friends that I grew up that were like that, partying parents and kids left alone at night, and it can be very traumatic.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of about all that I got out of the conversation tonight.
Good. Well, I'm glad that you all were looking at this as an opportunity to minister. I was sure that there'd be a couple saying, well, she's just full of crap or something like that, or she's histrionic. But no, you were all listening very closely and empathic. So our time is up now. Should we have her back on one more time, maybe Thursday? She can tell a little more. Okay. Is that a yes?
That would be up to you, Jackson.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you folks are the ones that come to these things, and I
think she definitely needs some kind of guidance.
Mm-hmm.
And she needs some deliverance for sure.
Definitely. I'm not even sure where she is. I was thinking she was in Eastern time, but
she is
real quick.
She is in Eastern time because I recognize her area. I recognized her area code.
Oh.
She lives in the eastern part of North Carolina.
Brother Jackson?
Yeah.
This is Greg. I was listening to her also, and, I think she has some kind of a relationship with the Father, but I think she keeps going back to an experience.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point we have to get past this experience and get down to knowledge. And does she have any kind of a support group there that she can go to?
Yeah, that's important.
Does she study the Word of God? Does she even know that she can learn about who the Father is through the Word of God? And
I get the impression she thinks she already knows those things.
Okay.
And that she's probably not in a fellowship because she says, in a way, she just can't really stand to be around people.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you, Greg. I mean, I think everybody here has hit it right on the nail head. But the question is now remotely, what can we do? One thing we can do is have her on again, and we talk to her, just like you're talking now. She's going to hear what is being said right now. And, she contacted me in the first place, and I have to agree with all of them. So she's in Warrenton, North Carolina. I don't know exactly where Warrenton is. Tammy, you got that accent right, too. Or Vicky?
I'm from North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
I live in Tennessee, but I'm from North Carolina.
Where are you at in Tennessee?
I live in Eastern Tennessee in the mountains.
Nice.
I'm in Cleveland, Tennessee.
Oh, you're south of me. Yeah, you're right above Chattanooga. I guess you're probably about 3 hours or so south of me. Yeah.
I was going to say, I'm not too far from parts of North Carolina either, depending on where Warrenton is.
We ought to just get
Murphy.
everybody from Tennessee and North Carolina. There's so many people that we know from that area.
Oh, it's such a beautiful area.
And from up
there. It really
there
is. There is a great park, Fall Creek Falls, Tennessee State Park.
I've been there.
You know that, don't you, Craig? I bet.
I've heard of it. I don't think I've...
It's beautiful. It's really beautiful. I have been to Feast of Tabernacles there before. It's really nice.
We tried to get that place a couple years ago for Tabernacles, but it was booked like a year ahead or more.
Wow, it's a beautiful park.
It's
really
a beautiful place. All right, folk, I'm going to let you off and go to bed, and hopefully we'll do this again Thursday, and I'll see you then, okay?
Okay, much prayer.
Thank you.
Blessings, everybody.
Amen.
Blessings and prayers for Tammy.
Yeah, don't forget. That's probably the most important thing.
You take everything you want to, making up the rules for bacon on your plate, and your policies are busted, locked away behind the rusted water gate. Oh, Tin Man, show some heart. Oh, Tin Man, show some love. Is this everything you wanted? The sensation you were looking for? Through through your meddling, the heart and soul of everything is gone.